less than 10 seconds.
Hey everyone, Michael here from the HR MacMillan Space Center. Once again, joined with Morgan from Let's Talk Science. How's it going, Morgan?
Good as always. How are you?
Oh, I'm just doing all right. So this week we are going into rockets, and this is a theme that's going to come up a couple times this summer. We do have later on in July, we're going to get into some of the future of rockets because we're looking at a rocket launch, a really exciting rocket launch in July. So we're kind of gearing up to that. That particular rocket launch is going to be sending the new rover to Mars. So that's going to be very exciting. So we're going to kind of get you started here with, just the basics, how rockets work. So Morgan, how did you do this week learning about rockets?
Good as always. There's so much news about rockets, especially with the first sort of commercial company sending rockets up into space last month, SpaceX, which is owned by the same man who owns Tesla, of course.
Yeah.
And actually just this morning, I was looking again at the news headlines and saw that they're planning to build a space launcher, a rocket launcher, off the coast of Texas for potential commercial flights to Mars and the moon. Have you heard much about that?
Well, there has been a few new locations, and actually what was really surprising to me recently is that there are rocket launches all over the world. There is actually a really exciting company called Rocket Lab out of New Zealand. And they do some really cool commercial flights down there as well. And so you'll notice that a lot of these companies, they generally try to locate themselves off coasts. And that, of course, is that they, if there's an accident or if there's fuel, that gets spilled out, it's not going to go over populations. There is even actually been some talk of building a rocket launch site both on our coast, on Nova Scotia as well, here in British Columbia. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but there's been some talk.
For commercial flights?
Could be, yeah. I mean, this is something that as each country sort of gets into the space business, if you have your own launch site, then you don't have to pay, a private company or pay another government to launch your satellite. So, for instance, when Canadian companies or even the Canadian government want to launch some of our satellites, and we've got lots of communication satellites, lots of other satellites that help us monitor forest fires and all of the things that, and weather and things like that. We have to pay a company like NASA or a private company to send up those satellites. So it's one of those things where it might be more cost effective if we can launch it ourselves.
Which sounds crazy. Let's build our own rocket launcher. It's cost effective.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can film one of our future episodes aboard a commercial spacecraft.
Absolutely, yeah.
If we get good for another season.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get out there. And of course, we are heading into a really great, I think, hopefully good weather summer season. You've got a really great craft that you can hopefully encourage kids to build their own rockets that they can launch outdoors this summer.
Yes, definitely. And this might not be desirable on the part of the parents, but can launch them inside if the weather does not permit.
Oh, interesting.
Rockets are made out of paper. You can make them basically out of anything. So probably won't do too much damage if launched indoors.
Okay, sounds great. Well, let's get going with this week's activity.
Sounds good. Hi everybody, I'm super excited to be learning all about rockets this week. Rockets are something that a lot of us learn about through our school experiences, whether it be elementary school when you watch a NASA rocket launch for the first time in your science class, or you're in high school and you've had the opportunity to actually build your own rocket before. It's something we can all relate to, and is a super simple activity that can be modified for all age levels regardless. So this week we're going to be building more of a simple rocket. We're not going to rely on anything like water pressure, but just air pressure. And then in a few weeks' time, we'll revisit this topic and we'll build something a little bit more involved, a little bit more sophisticated. And in that instance, we'll be building a rocket where we can launch it using actual water pressure. And both are really, really great. They're easy to do with materials that you have in your home. We might be working with a little bit of heat today. So again, I have to reiterate, if anybody is under the age of 13, please, it's really important to have parental supervision while you are doing this activity. But otherwise, let's jump right in. So first and foremost, we need to collect our materials for our activity today. As always, here I've got an empty 2-liter pop bottle, a foot-long piece of hollow tube or PVC pipe, 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Half an inch will also suffice if you're using a 2-liter size soda bottle today. You need a pair of scissors, some Scotch tape, any construction paper or sturdy printer paper. I'm using some with pretty patterns on them for decorative purposes, and a heat source, which in this case is going to be a hair dryer. Again, like is outlined in the PDF instructables, you can also use just like a hot element of a stove if you don't have a hairdryer in your house. We're going to recommend parental supervision for anything using heat or sharp tools like scissors or a knife today. So first things first, what you're going to do is take your piece of tube or hollow pipe, and you're going to want to cut it into an 8-inch piece as well as a 4-inch piece. So I've already done this prior to the video today. So this is actually only 8 inches long, and my 4-inch piece of tube I've actually already fit into my bottle. So I did this ahead of time and didn't realize that I was going to end up using glue for making sure that the fit was nice and tight. And so now I can't remove it from the nozzle of the 2-liter bottle, so we're stuck like this. Anyway, for demonstrative purposes, you want to take your tube, take your scissors, measure out about 4 inches, and make your cut there. Again, you can use a ruler, you can just kind of eyeball it. You want a piece of pipe that is about 1/3 of the whole piece of pipe that you're using today. And then you're going to take your heat source and you're going to apply it to the bottom part of the tube that you're going to be fitting into the nozzle of the 2-liter pop bottle. And you are going to heat the end of the tube in order to make it more pliable, that you can kind of squish it in there. So you'll see that the fit is really tight. You need to sort of squish it in, and you might end up damaging your tube in the process, in which case you'll need to use some sort of glue or cling wrap or tape, something to fill in the fit. Make sure that it's nice and snug. You can test this by blowing into the top of the tube in the bottle and making sure that there are no air leaks, and that you have a fully secured system. So once you've got the tube in the bottle, this is pretty much your built rocket launcher. So we're going to be expelling our rocket just by crushing the 2-liter pop bottle once our rocket is ready to go. And yeah, this is your launcher. You can decorate this using some paints, some pretty paper, really permanent markers if you have them, anything you want. I'm going to leave mine pretty plain just for the sake of the video today, but please do get creative with yours and send us pictures. Show us what you end up coming up with at home. Once you've got that all built, you are ready to start building your actual rocket. So our rocket today is just solely going to consist of paper, just to make things really, really simple. You're going to want a few pieces of paper. One of your pieces of paper is not needing to be that big, so you can take a regular size piece of paper and cut it in half. And then you're going to take a piece of tape and fit your piece of paper onto your longer piece of pipe that you have left over. And you want this to be very snug, and you want to keep the edges of the paper flush. And then another piece of tape will fasten this to the tube. And now we're going to take our second piece of paper and repeat the same process around this piece of paper that we've just fastened to the tube. So this piece of paper that we've just fastened to the tube, its purpose is to prevent us from making our actual rocket too snug. We want there to be a little bit of give, but we don't want there to be a lot of give. So just about the thickness of one piece of paper is the amount of give that we want. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make it pretty snug, not too snug. We're going to keep the edges flush. And we're not going to fasten this piece of paper to the tube. So you'll notice I didn't use a piece of tape when rolling this piece of paper around. I'm only going to use a piece of tape now in order to fasten it to itself so that it will hold its cylindrical shape once we peel it off. So then it should slide off pretty easily, like so. And now we've got the body of our paper rocket. So what we're going to do next is simply take some more pieces of tape and seal one end of our cylinder. And again, you can check to make sure you have a tight seal with no air leak just by blowing in one end of the cylinder. And if you notice any holes, make sure that you fill those in because we really don't want any air to be escaping. We want the air to give our rocket lift off from our launcher. We are going to fold the last remaining piece of paper in half. And we're going to cut a large triangle out of this piece of paper, so that when we open it, we get something that gives us the wings for our rocket. And it's really nice and symmetrical and gorgeous. Now you're going to take your wings that you've just cut and you're going to fasten it to the bottom of your rocket. And you want there to be sort of a natural sort of bend to the wings. You don't want them to be too bent, but you don't want them to be too straight either. This looks pretty perfect, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten that with another piece of tape. The beauty of using this construction paper is that it would have been very easy to decorate if I had colored in the patterns that were on the paper prior to building the rocket. But even now, if I wanted to decorate it outside the lines, I could just paint over it, I could use markers over it. Again, get real creative, break out the glitter if your mom isn't sick of you making a mess of the house already. And yeah, make this really beautiful, make it your own, and show us what you come up with. So, now we've got our rocket, we've got our launcher. I think it's time to take it for a test run. Follow me. I was going to go outside to rocket launch my rocket, but the weather had other plans. So we are going to do this in my room, which is not nearly as cool. Anyhow, I welcome you all to witness the launching of spacecraft M88. That's my favorite number and my name starts with M. Okay, anyway, ready? Wow. That was kind of lame, but these things can go up to 50 feet. So please build your own rocket launcher. Build your own rocket. Build it better than mine. And let us know how far you're able to shoot your rocket.